because seriously, guys, you realize where we're at here right now in 2025? We're in summer. We got, of course, the G1 Climax, the 5-Star Grand Prix on the horizon, the second ever Evolution, and we go all in for the first time here in America when we go to Texas 17 days from now with so much more ahead. And I talk about these things because they also are concerning things in all things wrestling. Damn, it's been a long time since I've talked with you two crazy MOs. But hey, guys, welcome back. And welcome back.
Okay, let me start this off. Something I just got to say right now for the whole world to listen to, hopefully. Or at least the 500 to thousands of viewers we get on your channel.
Or the 5 people that actually watch my crazy ass, because I don't try and reach out to anybody. You know that.
WWE, I need to ask you something.
Oh, no.
Oh, here we go. I knew this was coming.
Yeah, what the hell was WrestleMania week? No, seriously, what the absolute fuck was WrestleMania week?
I'm not sure I answer that. I don't understand.
Bad. I got one specific answer. Bad PR.
Yes, like it's not just bad PR. It was victim complex. It was we're the underdogs of everyone. It was talking politics, which I'm not going to get into because if I do, I'm going to get really fucking crazy.
Let's not do that, bro.
Let's see. It was talking politics. It was talking about Vince. Let's see. John Cena saying he still loves Vince despite the fact that he's a sociopath and a god complexy moron. Let's see. Punk talking about AEW again. Roman Reigns talking about politics because that's a great idea. Seth Rollins talking about AEW because Punk went into AEW. Oh, there's also let's talk about AAA and how we bought that out, and then talk about AEW again because that's somehow relevant to the fact that it's WrestleMania week, and you'd be almost convinced that WrestleMania was an AEW event instead of a WWE event to the point that you forgot. Oh yeah, the Hall of Fame was going to happen, and people fell asleep during it.
Yeah, people did fall asleep during the Hall of Fame to where people used them Hall of Fame sleep pictures as memes, especially Booker T, for example.
I mean, Booker T's falling asleep on commentary on NXT. I'm just saying. The man's got half a brain. There's a reason why he's desensitized in the WWE universe and what a wrestling move should actually be looked towards. But anyway, that's a whole different conversation. Well, Eric, now that you got that all purged from your system,
also,
welcome back,
Triple H also said to tell people to just shut up and consume. Enjoy the slop.
Or just go touch grass and enjoy life and enjoy actual good wrestling that is wrestling and not reality.
And then there was the roast.
The roast?
No, did you know that WWE decided to do a private roast?
That's right. I remember that. They had a comedian in Las Vegas that I give 2 shits about.
Right.
Yeah, did you hear exactly what was said at the roast?
No.
Okay, so WWE had this policy of no cameras allowed, please. Do not record this event. And we are definitely not going to check you for security cameras and whatnot because we somehow think that this is not going to lead to another Madison Square Garden disaster ever happening again. That would be stupid. We think our fans are intelligent even though we've publicly expressed our contempt and hatred for them. So anyways, fans, so you all didn't like WrestleMania. You didn't like how we had Travis Scott at the show. You didn't like The Rock never showed up and thus negating the entire storyline and making John Cena's heel turn a complete fucking afterthought, which is amazing in how they did that. That's like making Hulk Hogan's heel turn an afterthought. Just like a month after he turned heel in the 90s, which would be a stunning achievement by WCW if they did that. I got it. Hey, y'all hated the show? Well, we got 2 words for you. Fuck off.
I don't think they could put that on a shirt, but okay. All right. Well, that being said, let's go ahead and get back into some positive things because I am the simple man, the positive outlook on all things wrestling, even the WWE that has the lowest passion on a scale of my wrestling fandom because you guys know I'm found upon strong style in the Joshi and the Japanese discipline, and of course the independent side of things where AEW gives that on a weekly basis, as well as TNA to a degree and ROH and HOG and other promotions not named the WWE. But anyway, welcome back, folks. Welcome back, Eric. Welcome everybody for the first time that's tuning in. This is an impromptu, unscripted. It is an unscheduled. It is an absolutely unrestricted discussion. This is my family. We are ATW. We've been together as wrestling fans and outlooks on life since the pandemic and beforehand, defined by the birth, the rise, the stutter steps, the continuation of the wrestling landscape as well. And of course, shout out to the entire family, including not limited to Preacher Man, Casey Flynn, where Dakota.
Yeah.
I'll talk more about that later. Again, it's been a while, my friends. Of course,
It's been 3 to
Shanna,
5 months.
give or take. I haven't looked at the last episode on YouTube because I don't live in the past. I live in the present. I look towards the future. And I also been wondering how all you've been. Of course, included Lex, our enforcer, our gaming expert, our fighting gaming expert, excuse me. Of course, our own wrestling queen, not just Sienna Chanel, of course, who's working all sides of the wrestling business. Cheers, pal. But of course, I married Jade across the pond, who's back at it, between approved Jays worth more than gold and will not break and will not waver. Of course, the entire fam, Jose, Josh, Draco, you know who you are. Of course, we've been going at this. The family's expanded ever since then. Mikey, appreciate all of you. JD. So, yeah. Again, welcome back, everybody. We are ATW, and now, then, and forever, even if we do this once a year, it might seem like with our crazy schedules, we still love and enjoy and look at an outlook at all things wrestling. So that being said, before we get into normal routine of talking everything and anything, let's see how one is, as Eric now has decompressed and I think feels a little bit better. So first off, King, you're going all in 17 days, bro. We're fucking jealous of you. Damn you, damn you, damn you. But we love you and hope you have a safe time. But how you been? How are you?
Man, it's good to be back with you crazy dudes once again to talk wrestling and talk anything else. I am ready in 17 days. Wednesday, tonight was a crazy Dynamite, to say the least.
Right.
Last week was a crazy one as well with the whole ROH, AEW, CMLL. Everything's been crazy in the world of wrestling. From the land of the rising sun to here in the States. And I don't keep up with anything WWE. That's been put in the back burner for years and years and years. Whatever happens, it just happens.
You keep up with bits. You can't say that. We all can admit there's still bits that we keep up with because we do care about bits. Let's not desensitize the company in its entirety. When some of the workers, we still value them, not as superstars, but as wrestlers and human beings. So don't do that. You know,
well, I will tell you this. There has been an update on WWE's creative team.
What?
Oh, apparently someone's been eyeing a role for creative and has even been attending some of their meetings.
I'm about to say, how many producers and creators do you need in that freaking company? But go ahead.
Well, basically, they decided to get they're probably considering getting this guy. The guy who goes ahead on a podcast and says, I want men to be men with alcohol and knives.
Oh, Mark Calloway.
Yes.
Well, I mean, his wife is part of LFG, but again, different conversation. But that being said, Eric, bearer of all things news, bringing the chaos as always, but it's also good to see as you continue forward in your Neo Wrestle universe. Great clips, by the way. Of course, you recently been back at that. But how you been, man?
I've been good. Let's see. Let's see how this year's gone so far. I got scammed.
Damn.
Yeah, that was a series of events I do not like to cover. Let's see. The political world make me sick, so I'm not talking about that.
Good.
Let's see. Political. Work has been work.
Yeah. We do the work.
Yeah, and also I have been exploring more artificial intelligence just to go ahead and get my creative insanity going.
That's a dangerous force to work with.
Yes.
But it is there. It's a good tool if you
know but it's also part of my nefarious evil plan to eventually, when the AI uprising happens, to join their side and become first governor of humanity.
Okay then.
All right.
Oh, by the way, I wanted to circle back to AAA being sold to WWE. Okay, I gotta ask you both. What were your thoughts when this happened and Conan deciding to bring in AEW for the umpteenth time during WrestleMania week?
I think it's one of those things where at the end of the day, AEW's presence in the wrestling business affects everybody's views and opinions of what they believe the status quo is or what the status quo has been. And whether or not they put a positive tailspin on it or try to deface it in their renewed vision since being on Max and being in smaller venues and going on a different wavelength for their entire roster of presentation. I don't really look into that. Again, you guys know me. I protect my mentality. I have no notifications. I don't scroll. I barely listen to podcasts. I watch random wrestling. I work, I rest, I sleep. And for those that critique it, that's their choice. And whether they're paid for it and they actually have some logic and constructive criticism, or they're cynical and they're loudmouth assholes that might have a cultured pickle, like we learned tonight what that term means. That remains to be seen. And I'm sure there's some people that actually fit that later billing. But
Well,
anyway,
Conan decided to talk about AEW on Twitter about it because saying what goes around comes around because this is how it works now.
I guess.
And I'm just like stunned at the fact that WWE has apparently gotten AEW so much into their heads now, it's almost laughable. It makes me think, oh god, and people were saying AEW did that too much, and now WWE is doing it everywhere.
Well, WWE has to make sure they're the main talking point, and they're also the ones that are talked about the most. If it's not WWE, it doesn't matter. So it's like, that's the WMO.
There's been rumors going around that WWE has been thinking about what to do with AAA. Do they rebrand it to NXT Mexico? Because that's definitely not going to piss anyone off who's been in Lucha Libre wrestling for so long and for so many decades. Yeah. And Conan apparently had this big fallout with Tony Khan and this is being one of his primary motivations to go ahead and team up with WWE and sell the anonymity to the oppressive company that's hell bent on conquering everything again, is for one particular reason. Tony Khan and, by extension, Rocky Romero came to AAA and was like, hey, can you guys work it out with CMLL? And Conan basically was looking at Tony Khan being like, what the hell did you just say?
And it's a different world down there in Mexico, though. I'm just saying,
Sure
Rocky
is.
Romero did bridge the gap.
And here's the thing. Tony Khan even tried to offer Conan and AAA management this. Look, I can try and put in a good word for you. I'll get you a TV deal in America. And Conan was like, but you want us to work it out with CMLL. Yeah, just come to an agreement or just stop being hateful towards each other or just find a common ground where you can have talent for AAA work with us and CMLL can be in the same building and you don't have to go ahead and start a fight. Nah, we're going to be petty about it. And now WWE bought them. And WWE's now reportedly trying to also secure a TV deal for AAA, which makes me go, then why not just talk to Tony Khan again? Why give up your anonymity, your autonomy, just so you can be spiteful and petty?
Some people just can't let go of the past, bruv. It's unfortunately a sad fact of life. We aren't meant to necessarily forgive, even if you're, trying to be a good bound citizen spiritually like me, where you don't let the past define you for the rest of your life. The only way you grow is if you move forward. If you live in the past, you are doomed to repeat it or suffer from it. And some people, unfortunately, just don't know how to get away from that. But that being said, yeah, let's go ahead and start talking a little bit about that because that was a major thing that's happened since, to your point, the last time we did this, and of course, we're recording this 10:22 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on June 25th after AEW Dynamite. I'm sure we'll talk a lot more about AEW in a more positive limelight, considering we have a milestone coming up next week. Can't believe we've gotten this far, bros. But that being said, King, AAA now in acquisition. Keyword, acquisition. For those that don't know, WWE basically owns them. And the jury is out whether or not WWE will own TNA within the next year. We'll talk more about that later, where Trick NA almost makes me sick. I'm just waiting for a Cheez-It sponsorship. That being said, King, and I also don't eat Cheez-Its. Sorry, not sorry. I'm a chili cheese Fritos guy or a Lay's guy. King, what do you think about the AAA acquisition? And did you check out clips at all of Worlds Collide? Because I must say, Worlds Collide felt very spirited of a showcase for truly Lucha Libre, and even with the interpromotional stuff with the North American Championship and the AAA Mega Championship with Akil de Vikingo and Chad Gable, who proves once again why the fuck is Chad Gable not a freaking champion in WWE, modern day Kurt Angle, literally, but that's a different conversation.
Yeah, I still remember that.
Yeah, it's still one of my favorite matches of the year. Chad Gable is amazing, but so is Akil de Vikingo. Anyway, what do you think about this AAA acquisition, and did you check out Worlds Collide at all?
I did not check out Worlds Collide, but I have seen like clips and whatnot on Twitter and on Blue Sky or whatnot. But it's that one speech that gets me about what Ray said. How did he put it? The Lucha Libre stamp of approval by WWE, and I'm just like, dude, Lucha Libre was already approved a stamp of when it comes to stateside without a WWE approval. Go check out ECW.
Or
Go check out
WCW.
WCW when the cruiserweight division was born. And I'm
Guerrero.
like, the stamp of approval by WWE with Lucha Libre, like, you're not making any sense, right? Like, are you saying that from yourself, from the heart, or is you having somebody in your ear tell you about that? Because I don't want to say early out the gate of this one word, but it's looking like we headed down that direction, and I don't want it to head down that direction because I'm tired of wrestling monopolization.
Yeah, I understand, King. In fact, I've even been saying this since TNA joined up with WWE, which is ironic because the whole restoration of the shared universe stuff started because TNA and AEW got together, and now WWE suddenly is trying to team up with TNA, and now they're partnering up with AAA, even buying them out outright, which is kind of ironic given the fact that they were the first two partners of AEW, so I'm pretty sure there's definitely no mentality right there for that, but that's just a conspiracy on my front.
Conspiracy theories worse than Jesse the Body Ventura. Please continue.
Yes. But I've been saying this for a while now. I'm gonna declare that we're now in a pro wrestling Cold War era. We have AEW with CMLL, New Japan Pro Wrestling, the independent scenes, all vying to have collaboration, working together, trying to synergize with each other, trying to share talent, trying to be a collaborative nature, try to actually be a shared universe. Whereas you have WWE with AAA and TNA and looking like NWA and GCW trying to be all consumed and domination and oppression and, well, with how everyone's been acting so much lately in the management side of things, it's pretty much looking like it's an us or them mentality now, more like the fans had it, whereas the wrestlers are probably just looking at this and being like, hey, can we stop doing the pissing contest with you guys?
I mean, WID is also out for debate, and WWE just crowned their first Evolve champions in a program that's even lesser than NXT. So it is one of those things where, again, WWE is trying to shape the wrestling landscape in what their vision of storytelling is. Because for me, I look at WWE more as reality, not sport-based competition. It feels more like they put a focus more into overacting in their storytelling than they do the competition side of things. And for some, that's the flaw of AEW because they do focus more on that than storytelling. But when you focus more on one element than the other, you do lose the audience there. And there is that very light, I would think, sensitive balance that probably wedges this separation with fans and the wrestling landscape, to your point. But that being said, it's not the first time we've heard this plan about global localization. Remember, NXT Europe was supposed to be a thing before the entire European independence scene collapsed.
You mean
with the help of the
because
pandemic.
WWE was still mad of
Well,
COVID and basically
yeah.
went scorched earth, and then speaking out pretty much was like taking a dying animal and just shooting it out of its misery.
Put a gun against his head, pull the trigger, now he's dead. And of course, we've seen, shades of the Pro Wrestling Noah influence crossover. And with Seth and Rollins' School, the Nightmare Factory, and reality of wrestling, acting almost as development territories almost for WWE. I can understand the concern, but again, I don't want to think like that when this business has more opportunity than ever. And that's really what it should look like. I still feel like TNA has its own identity, despite the fact NXTNA is bleeding a bit more on the NXT side of things than the TNA side of things, especially with Trick NA, where Trick Williams alongside AJ Francis. That was a great business decision. Hit row Timu. That being said, it's one of those things right now where I almost hope Joe Hendry is the guy to do at Summiversary, but I think Mike Santana would have been more poetic to do it because it's in New York, but that's a whole different conversation. But just to put the bow on the AAA thing, because that was the original thing.
Well, actually, there's one more thing I did want to talk about regarding AAA.
Okay.
So people were curious to know, for some reason, about, hey, what's the pay like for AAA now that they're part of WWE's umbrella? And according to Dave Meltzer, so take it for all the salt you need, They said that they have all signed new contracts, which unfortunately means El Patron, but they don't have intentions to bring him to the main roster, so we don't have to have that burden. So there.
Okay.
In addition to a few others who don't have visas sorted and couldn't wrestle on the show, so they also got paid, so that's good. Compared to what many earn in AAA, it is said that they are on nice money. And when I heard this part, I was like, okay, they're getting some good money. Okay, fine. And then the other part came in, and I was just, and it made me wish I was Noah for a second with glasses and me like, because it was like, wait, nice money, and yet you're telling me it is lower than the current developmental deals that WWE has. What in the was AAA paying them before they were bought?
Well, I mean, it's Mexico. It's a different market down there, too. So I don't know. It's kind of ironic, though, we do talk about this because, of course, this happened after our last impromptu. The last one went impromptu was March 7th. So we literally haven't done anything since WrestleMania, but everything's happened since WrestleMania, including John Cena winning number 17. But just to wrap a nice little bow on this AAA thing, if nothing else, may it lead to opportunities to provide better for their families here in America. Maybe it's not money, maybe it's opportunity at the end of the day. Because at the end of the day, everyone looks at WWE as the dream. It is the dream. And sometimes that dream can be a nightmare. We'll talk more about that when it comes to talent that's no longer underneath the E due to being released, due to who knows why, including one person I was going to talk about a moment ago before. Yeah, Casey. We love you, brother. Appreciate you, man. Our preacher man, Casey Flynn. Always going to be a fan. Going to guy. Just saying. But anyway, as far as AAA, hopefully it means more opportunity for both AAA talent and Lucha Libre talent that doesn't get a fair fix in WWE like Dragon Lee. I mean, hell, we got new AAA tag team champions and freaking Legado del Fantasma. So that has to count for something, right? Anyway, before we move on from there, let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about other things in wrestling. We know that Bozilla is no longer part of Marigold. She has joined Stardom and Suzuki's crazy faction, Vida Loca. So I'm very curious to see what Bozilla does in Stardom now after watching her against Megan Bayne at Joy Janela Spring Break and seeing her challenge Tamayashita in Marigold for the Marigold World Championship. I think Bozilla has a lot of great potential, and she could bring her power and her insanity to the craziest faction developed now in Stardom, led by Suzu Suzuki. Speaking of Suzu Suzuki, she, of course, was with Rina Yamashita at the Death Pain Invitational, where Jun Kasai, Crazy Monkey, took on El Desperado for the Junior Heavyweight Championship. El Desperado is still the Junior Heavyweight Champion, and Pro Wrestling Noah Ozawa, of course, still has the GAC Heavyweight Championship, and Team 2000X gained another member recently in Tetsuya Endo, so there's that. So going back to other things, let's go ahead and transition away from the world of WWE to a little bit more about TNA and talk about the things that have happened there lately between Rebellion, Under Siege, and of course, we're now heading towards Slammiversary. We know, of course, the director of 40 position was almost at stake and almost given us a rat named Robert Stone. Thankfully, that has been looked, but somehow Victoria Crawford's still back in play. The Inspiration, though, is back to hopefully save tag team wrestling, while the Elegance branch trying to be Timu Beautiful People at this point. We've rejected Pee Wee Herman. I said what I said. But I am proud of the newest talents that have arrived, like Maggie Lee, who are making a name and identity for themselves. I'm also glad that someone very impressive have joined the TNA Knockouts in Indi Hartwell. Indi Hartwell, who has finally crossed the line and has started a new opportunity where TNA, yes, the NXTNA is still very much a thing, but they're not an acquisition yet. So let's not look at TNA in the same line as WWE. There's a reason why TNA has been the alternative, the original alternative of the professional wrestling business. All right? And Trick Williams made history, of course, at NXT Battleground, winning the TNA World Championship by hook and by crook to a very sad TNA president, Carlos Silva, and has aligned himself with AJ Friends to keep his stranglehold on the entire TNA company. As TNA did just celebrate 23 years of existence. Little engine that you thought that was going to die after their former director of 40 was anyone like Don Callis, Eric Bischoff, and Hulk Hogan. Just saying. I just got to figure out the damn network deal. So I want to go around and get everyone's thoughts.
I'll admit, TNA surviving Dixie Carter, Hulk Hogan, Eric Bischoff. When every time when it looked like it was about like this is it. Like when I heard they were working in a warehouse, their only office building was a warehouse. I was like, okay, this has got to be it, right? And then they just survive because Scott D'Amore, that guy that TNA was like, you have no further use for us. Was trying did his damnedest to get TNA back on the front, and his model was, whereas AEW was very competitive in their wrestling style and WWE was more sports entertainment style, TNA's philosophy more or less went to, dude, we are a wrestling industry that has a guy who's a dead man walking, one who controls fire. Just embrace the madness, like the whole wedding fiasco of Who Shot Bravo. Where they even break the fourth wall and says, well, you dodged that trope.
Look, wrestling weddings should just not happen on screen. I'm just saying, period. That should just stop altogether. I'm just going to put it out there. And
because
of course,
for some reason in TNA's world, it means death, whereas in WWE, it means getting tombstoned.
Well, I mean, hey, in one company, it actually has some sort of cinematic value that made sense considering the characters involved, including Rosemary and the bunny. Yeah. But anyway, it's one of those things right now where, again, hindsight's 2020. But anyway, TNA, 23 years, guys. It's still an impressive feat that they approach Summerversary once again. And of course, we know we have Mantra Slavis, the TNA Knockouts World Champion. Sounds like she might collide with the NXT Women's Champion. Whether or not it's one or the other remains to be seen as we approach Evolution 2.
My only worry regarding TNA currently, besides WWE breathing down their necks probably down the road, is when they brought back a certain person whose name I will not mention, but mostly because they're exploiting what she did.
Oh, here we go. The Tessa Blanchard thing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, she hasn't been champion yet. I mean, again, Mantra made her even tap, so she hasn't been involved in the championship picture. And to screen the championship picture, Killer Kelly will be challenging Mantra Slavis tomorrow.
Like after everything that happened, they didn't want to work with her again, especially when WWE was like, "Look, we are a morally bankrupt company, and we are horrible at what we do." Tessa. Yeah, we're not going to touch that with a 20-foot pole. Like, no. Like, we're psychos. We're morally bankrupt, but we do not want to touch that. She would get into catfights with us and Stephanie.
Well, so far it seems like she hasn't done that, but she still believes she's the biggest bitch on the roster. Her jury's still out whether or not she is that, but at least she's not champion.
I do have some interesting news regarding NWA.
Oh, okay. Go for that.
They have now secured a streaming deal with Roku.
Yeah, I noticed that. So good for them.
My only thought process when I heard this is, so how's Billy Corgan screwed this up like last time?
Hey, again, those who are, look back at history are doomed to repeat it. I mean, Billy Corgan, somehow the NWA still survives. And there's some good talent there, especially in that women's division, like Kenzie Page and Tiffany Leves. So I'm not going to argue as long as it means they still have a job.
Well, I'm just hoping Billy Corgan doesn't screw this up like CW.
Yeah.
The jury is out.
Yeah, but and that went on, and I'm also curious to know. I have not been watching wrestling regularly like I used to. Heck, watching Double or Nothing was the first time I watched a full wrestling show in months.
Wow!
And that was the first pay-per-view I saw since AEW Dynasty.
Oh, this year?
Yeah. No, Dynasty of last year.
Ooh.
Yeah, I've been that removed from wrestling.
I know
what's been going on. I've been keeping track of it online, but like, if I'm going to find time to watch it, you might as well just shoot me right now. That's not going to happen.
Look, we all need to desensitize ourselves, even from someone that brings so much passion. If it's going to overwhelm you when you
not that, because I have a schedule and work.
That too, like priorities over passions, bro. Why you think I took a freaking break? Why you think he took a break? But going back to, again, what I was previously talking about, King, TNA, Survival, 23 years. You kind of surprised? What do you think about the current TNA landscape? Have you kept up with it lately? And what do you think so far still about the NXT relationship now that's Trick NA?
Yeah, the relationship. I'm glad you touched on that because it's like every single WWE talent that they get released, they go straight to TNA. It's more like if they don't get no offers from AEW or New Japan, they go straight to TNA because I've like kind of noticed that, especially with Cedric. because I've noticed that Tony passed up on Cedric, and why wouldn't you? Because of the fact that Big Swole came right out, and we all know the whole Big Swole Tony Khan incident that happened years ago.
James
So
the shenanigans. Yep.
exactly. So of course Tony was not going to offer Cedric, and of course the fact that every WWE release talent goes straight to TNA, and it's like WWE don't want to deal with them.
I've been having about
And they go
that.
to straight to TNA to basically say, "Oh, WWE, oh, here you go. Here's some of our release talent going to TNA. We'll have TNA. We'll have y'all take care of them."
I actually think it's a much more nefarious scheme than that, King.
Do tell.
Remember when the layoffs happened last time recently, and the reason was because they were too expensive. Now think this for a second. Hey, wait, we still want to use these guys, but they're too expensive. Where can we get a place where they can work and we can borrow them for lesser money and they can still get paid and we can not be held accountable for anything? Hey, TNA, do you want to take Braun Strowman for us, please?
I don't know.
You don't have to pay him a lot, but we can borrow him still, right? For
Braun
free.
Strowman's on a special contract now where he just shows up for those big type of story angles. So that's kind of an exception. And some other people, but talking about, pettiness, drawing lines, business ventures, American Gladiators, one of my favorite shows when I was once a wee lad, is getting a reboot hosted by The Miz involving both AEW and WWE talent.
Yeah, and WWE is reportedly pissed about that. And AEW is looking at this and being like, oh, we're going to have some WWE talent on that show? Okay.
Well, Tony Khan has said, and you told me this verbatim, if there are fans that are for WWE, let them come, let them be. I welcome it because at the end of the day, we're all just trying to enjoy wrestling. It's not about this door's closed.
That's what I've been saying. Like, AEW's unbothered, and yet WWE's been throwing a fit reportedly about, oh, why do we have to share with Wardlow? Why do we have to share with this guy?
Why we share Camille?
Yeah, and then they got mad. They have gotten AEW so much into their heads now that they told Netflix, look, when we're airing Raw, when you're promoting Happy Gilmore 2, can you not use the ones that have MJF in it?
Well,
and Netflix's response should be, okay, we'll do that when you get your numbers up.
Okay, well, ouch. But also in this day and age, is WWE too big to fail? It's the old time question itself. The answer is still no. But that being said, going back to the TNA thing real quick, anything else you wanted to say regarding the TNA type of environment? I guess to your point, you're kind of right. Ash has been there for the longest time. But again, a woman in TNA can find themselves there because that is the division for women's wrestling. It is the alternative. Anybody can make themselves a star there. And Dana Brooke has proven it.
Yeah, though. I'll honestly.
Yeah, but it's like, and I'm happy for Trick. I'm happy for Trick winning the TNA World Championship. But all jokes aside, I mean, yeah, Kenny did it with the TNA title over AEW, but that was more of a, how shall I put it, a mutual partnership. With this one here, it's more like, why y'all having Trick defend against Josh Briggs of all people when Mike Santana was right in there for the picking, and then all of a sudden you go right back to Joe Hendry when Mike Santana was right there, New York.
Look, my only thought process when I was like, look, here's the thing. When this whole stuff started, I was like, look, the only way I'm ever going to take this seriously, the only way I'll ever think that this is a one-to-one partnership and not a WWE-focused one and AEW and TNA just gets something on the line, is you have to send some big guy down there. You have to send a top guy out there. AEW sent Kenny Omega, their world champion at that time, to go into TNA when it was run by Scott D'Amore and Don Callis. And New Japan Pro Wrestling gave TNA the go-ahead to be like, hey, we're going to let you be the guys that kick out Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa from Bullet Club thanks to Jay White. Big storyline right there to give you. And it's like, look, I'm not saying the talent they brought over are bad. It's just like, if those two partnerships got those talents and those storylines, send someone big. And I keep saying, send Roman to prove me wrong.
Yeah, because it's more of like NXT wanting to send the big stars over there, and it's like NXT sending, like they sent Tatum Paxley, they sent So Ruka, they sent Cora Jade, but it's like with TNA side of things. Oh, we'll give you Moose, we'll give you Mike Santana,
Alex
we'll
Hammerstone.
give you Hammerstone, we'll give you Elijah back to WWE for a return. And it's just like it's been more of TNA sending their top main names than what NXT is doing.
I mean,
And here's the thing.
NXT did send Obafemi and even Paige, and with all due respect to NXT, they don't have a lot of top guys, honestly, in their place either, since
but
they're
this
on
is
the
the
main roster.
thing. Like that worked for a while, but the moment you started bringing them onto the main roster, like Joe Hendry at WrestleMania, that should have been like, okay, send someone from main roster down to TNA.
Well,
Right.
JJ's still holding out for the phenomenal AJ Styles. I still say highly unlikely, not likelihood.
Yeah, and AJ Styles even said he was offered the Hall of Fame, and he said no because he was like, I'm still working. So it'd be kind of weird, especially given the fact that.
Or you could do a trade-off like what Christian Cage and Ric Flair did back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But here's the thing.
I at least understood that the whole AJ Styles didn't want to go into the Hall of Fame until he's done wrestling. Like, fine, I get that.
Right.
Respect.
But then he added one extra layer that made me go, oh, for F's sake, you should have just stopped right there. Where he said he felt like it would be disrespecting WWE. And I'm like, no, it wouldn't. They're partners.
No, yeah, the partners, like, in a way.
Like, how would it be disrespectful? In fact, WWE didn't even think about you. They didn't get you when WCW went out under. You went to TNA. That was your big breakout moment.
Yeah, this is true, but I also think about this. I don't think you ever see a main roster WWE superstar lose in TNA. That's probably why they wouldn't do it.
Me because it's like Kenny Omega lost. Like, granted, he lost in AEW to Christian Cage, and that was the whole thing. But that was because there was always this politicking going on because Scott D'Amore wanted, and Kenny Omega both were like, and Tony Khan was even for it, was like, we want to have Josh Alexander dethrone Kenny Omega at Bound for Glory and whatnot. And Anthem, being the annoying presence that there was at the time, was like, nah.
Well, there's a reason why Anthem and Netflix work so well together, even though we have no main roster stars. But the jury is out whether or not WWE acquires TNA by the end of the year. But it sounds like, based on what people are thinking, they might very well acquire Joe Hendry. So we'll see what happens there.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely the case. But there is one black eye that made me really hate this partnership.
What?
You fired Gail Kim.
Oh, yeah.
Don't get me started on that. I will say this. I don't know what Gail Kim's future holds, but I love that Scott D'Amore is still leading wrestling in Canada with Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. So while we close the book on NXTNA, is it fine? Is it still fine? Will it be better with the Trigon era continuing or with it ending at Summerverse with Joe Hendry winning? Date and time and jurisdiction to be determined.
Well, no, I have an update on Gail Kim.
What?
She said this on Instagram a while back. Looking for a hair and makeup artist for August in Glasgow, Scotland. Please DM me if you're interested or have suggestions with their Instagram account handles. Serious inquiries only. And then someone looked it up and did the math. AEW is going to be in Glasgow in August.
Yep, I did the math on that.
All right, well, that's not the only thing. Let's just put it out there. But anyway, we'll see what happens.
Here's the thing. I definitely thought Gail Kim left TNA for her own reason. I didn't think she was fired. I thought she left because WWE was bleeding themselves into TNA and, you know, the established history between her and WWE and how they've burned her multiple times. And according to her, sent her garbage care packages in the past.
Again, the past is
and
the
fact
past,
that they only hired her because Jim Ross had to convince Vince porn exists.
Anyway, NXTNA, we'll see what happens. Speaking of Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling, talking about other things and all things wrestling. Of course, Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling is back up and running quite predominantly if you've been watching it like I have. Commentary led by the likes of Veda Scott, Mauro Vanello, and Don Callis. I love hearing Mauro back on commentary. We, of course, crowned the first ever Maple Leaf Pro Women's Champion in Giselle Shaw, who beat Kylie Ray, and we also crowned the first Mission Pro Wrestling men's champion in this new era with the walking weapon, Josh Alexander, in a gauntlet match that ended with him and Matt Cardona. So please stay tuned for more on that, folks. If you're a fan of Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling or Canadian Pro Wrestling, you can watch that on Trailer TV. That's what I do. Okay, so let's move away from WWE.
I got good news.
Go ahead.
Jim Ross declares he is cancer-free and is eyeing a return for All In.
Oh, let that boomer sooner show up in Texas. This is where you don't think about football. This is where you just think about the best voice of professional wrestling, damn it. I'm just saying. Okay, but let's go ahead and move into something that's not quite too sweet. As we move away from WWE, NXT, and TNA, let's talk a little bit about NJPW. Because, again, we look at all things wrestling. They just had their Dominion show. Bone and Ole beat Kenosis to catch up from the Heavyweight Championship. Gabe Kidd is the new IWGP Global Heavyweight Champion, beating Yota Tsuji. The Golden Revolution has continued going on quite predominantly since Osaka. The strongest IWGP Heavyweight Champion I've seen since Sonata, who was the longest running. And then there's the dark notes of New Japan Pro Wrestling. While we're on the road to D1 Climax, Bullet Club, as we know it, might as well be rendered dead.
Yeah, I know, I heard.
Yep, you might as well, because all of a sudden that Chase Owens, and he's no longer bad luck, he's just Don Fale, joined Hot Garbage.
Well, House of Torture for those that want context, but yeah, House of Torture now up to 10 people. I mean, it's kind of crazy to think.
And it's like, how does Hot Garbage have more people than the War Dogs?
Well, considering some of the original Bullet Club members, including the Good Brothers, who have been freed from the shackles of corporate wrestling, are telling that part of Bullet Club. The Young Bucks are Bullet Club OGs, and they're the EVPs for now of AEW. And then other members are pretty much scattered across WWE and the other companies. It kind of is what it is, bro.
And Gabe Kidd's a mercenary for the Death Riders.
And speaking of, exactly. Of course, now the Global Weight Champion, but of course, so prideful, he'll be defending that title against Hiroshi Tanahashi. But let's go ahead now and switch gears into something I know we're all very positive about here, more often than not. AEW. So it's ironic enough, Eric, that you talk about Double or Nothing, because honestly, Double or Nothing right now has been my pay-per-view of the year. So let's go ahead and slowly talk about that. That's really a step a lot for us as we're heading All In. Again, you'll be there live. We saw the conclusions of the All In. Mercedes when they beat Jamie Hayter. Will Ospreay and him and Page had a match of the year clinic where the Hangman did win in the end and won the men's Owen Hart Foundation tournament. Timeless Tony Storm defended the AEW Women's World Championship successfully against Mina Shirakawa, who now is fully elite and living here in America. A brand new beginning for her in life as well as wrestling. So all the best to her. Why Tam Nakano's career ended in Stardom against Saya Kamatani, still the World of Stardom championship. The Hurt Syndicate is more powerful than ever with the addition of Maxwell Jacob Freeman completing the fold, where this might be the most complete faction that covers all the boxes for something that you need to succeed in professional wrestling. Damn it. And of course, we also saw first ever stretcher match and the craziest anarchy in the arena to date with an homage to ECW in spades and women competing. So why don't we go ahead and slowly talk a little bit about Double or Nothing. King, I'll start with you. What was your thoughts?
Double or Nothing continued the great stretch of AEW pay-per-views that I know it can be. Always expect a good pay-per-view to overtop itself, and Double or Nothing has been my pay-per-view of the year for AEW to watch. From just top to bottom was just a stacked card, excellent card from top to bottom.
And again, the AEW Evolution, though, they still probably have my favorite match for the women this year with the Hollywood ending. We'll talk more about the glamour here in a little bit. Yeah, King, again, thank you for that. Eric, again, you talked about your hiatus. You came in quite a hell of a time, though. I love the dynamic lining, by the way, of the set. Subtle nuances like that in the same night is why I really think wrestling has more of a personality, despite the fact that, yes, it was long. You paid for it. You got your money's worth, I think. Eric, what did you think of Double or Nothing?
Did I think it was long? Yes. Did I care? No, because I spent $50, so I might as well get something out of this big.
Something! Sorry, I'm a fan of Jake Something.
Yeah. But here's the thing. I found out something stunning. Monet wasn't even supposed to be in the finals.
No. She
No.
wasn't.
turns out the original plan Monet was trying to get was, I want Athena to beat me.
Yep.
Really?
But the reason why they didn't go with that is because Mariah May went straight to NXT. Because they were going to use that to build Athena versus Monet at All In, but they also had a plan to have Toni Storm and Monet eventually. But it just, the plan was only accelerated and wasn't delayed, if that's what you're thinking. But like, it did hold Athena's ascension to fight Monet. But like, yeah, I was like, oh damn, we almost got the first Monet loss. Well, let's hope Toni Storm can do it.
Well, if not her, we'll talk more about that when we talk about what's ahead next week when we celebrate AEW. Continue.
The thing I love most of being the main event, especially, I was like, damn, how are they gonna top Anarchy in the Arena for the main event? Like,
right?
I thought that was gonna be another typical Tony Khan got the match order wrong again, like what happened the last few revolutions ago. And they somehow stole it, and they stole the show. I didn't know how.
The story told.
But the thing I love most about that match was the fact that it wasn't because of the match itself. It was because what came out about it. Where basically Hangman and Will Ospreay had a major issue with each other regarding who would win the tournament. It wasn't like, I want to win, I want to win. It was like, no, you're the winner. No, you're the winner. No, you're the winner. No, you're the winner. No, you are going to win. No, you are going to win. And then they start arguing back and forth, apparently, that Hangman, dude, I want you to win, man. No, I want you to win. And then it leads in, and then I'm pretty sure booking committee was looking at this and being like, we are so glad Bryan Danielson's not here to make this worse.
Well, Bryan Danielson's mentality is up there right now. Again, enjoy your retirement. But yeah, I love the way they really shaped the card that night and the main event when it came to Hangman Page and Will Ospreay, and the dynamic entrances when it came to both these men's personal versus professional aspects of winning this tournament to challenge for the AEW World Championship and bringing it home. Both men were rightfully deserving to win the Owen and go all in for the gold. So it really was a justified match that you really could have took either way and you wouldn't have been disappointed. And I love that. And I love the fact they open with an Owen and they bookend with an Owen. By the way, Jamie Hayter, get well soon. For those that don't know, Jamie Hayter is injured again.
Yeah, so is Chad Gable.
Damn it!
Yeah, that's why he was written off of Monday Night Raw this week.
Okay, well, that makes more sense. And, of course, this women's division, AEW, the women's landscape, like I said, in wrestling is flourishing more than ever. Evolution 2, WWE, Queen of the Ring, Jade Cargill versus Asuka versus Io Sky might possibly happen. SmackDown, I don't know what the fuck's going on there. Rhea Ripley, Raquel, running it back from NXT, that should be good. Of course, AEW, it looks like a women's tag team division might be on the rise since Megan Bain's ascent with Super Bad Girl, but now before it, Harley Cameron, by the way, get well soon. God damn her.
That broken nose, But
of course, Tamela came back. We got Ty J fighting together once again. Literally, I think it's the first time that Anna J felt literally complete and comfortable. Sky Blue return. We got Sky Blue and Julia Hart back together again. Of course, we got Sky Blue versus Queen Amanada tomorrow night. The best of friends, if you all know, you know, folks. And, of course, talking about the women's champion, Timeless Toni Storm, she'll be taking on Mercedes Moné for the first time ever. Two women that left the E to find themselves and did just that in their own ways on their own journey. Now will collide for the first time at AEW's grandest stage of them all, where you might think that might be Mercedes Moné's first loss. To your point, she is still unpinned and unsubmitted, undefeated in AEW. Only loss being not involved in decision. Of course, Asume won the Strong Women's Championship at Resurgence. So, yeah, but I further enjoyed Double or Nothing. I love the fact they brought the bodies hit the floor during the freaking
match. Luckily, I've left Twitter and King as well because I heard what happened immediately following that.
What?
Because it's like, you let the bodies hit the floor when the Owen is being celebrated?
Oh, get real.
Yeah, they started doing the gatekeeping again. I heard on Twitter. Luckily, I'm gone off there. And my only response if I was back on Twitter would have been like, Didn't you threaten Martha Hart's life because she wanted AEW to honor Owen Hart? Also, don't you think that they asked for permission first? Like last year with the
Sensitivity.
whole hanging upside down thing?
Where Darby Allin was very safely hung, by the way, being a
Yes.
stuntman in his own right. And by
Which
the way,
congratulations to Darby Allin for successfully climbing Mount Everest.
and we'll
Yes.
be returning here very soon. But
In
yes,
fact, here's the thing. Reportedly, there was actually thinking going ahead that they were going to get Darby Allin in time for Double or Nothing, which probably would have led to the most worst jet lag ever.
no doubt about that.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I even said, like, okay, yeah, I can definitely see Darby Allin doing that. Climb the mountain, get to the peak, get to the top, plant the flag on top, go down, get on a plane, head back, get in gear here, and be like, okay, everyone, I'm back, and I'm ready to do the most insane stunt double stuff ever. Because I am the Tom Cruise of wrestling.
Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise of wrestling.
Mission Impossible. Anyway.
Also, imagine if they actually brought Tom Cruise onto the show with Darby Allin in a segment.
Well, I mean, ironically enough, they won't be in Hollywood, but they will be in California next week. So why don't we go ahead and briefly segue, celebrate AEW, the fact that not
I'm
only
still waiting for Kendrick Lamar.
That's a whole.
That's not happening. He's still doing his GNX tour.
Yeah, I know, but I'm still. But like AEW said, they want to get him on the show eventually.
Well, I wouldn't count it out because they actually do emphasize better music and actual realistic people with talent than Def Rebel. Is that what I said? But
and
let's
I got
go
good news
ahead.
regarding the upcoming ECW tapings they're doing.
Oh yeah, go for it. What?
So they're going to be there for a little bit. They're going to do another round of tapings there later in the year as well, instead of just being in August. And WWE backed out.
Yes, they did.
Well, again, I mean,
Because for God's sakes, I did not want to deal with that.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, they also probably were looking for bigger marks because WWE kind of does everything now stadium level. But that being said, again, we're not going to be in Hollywood, California, even though the Hollywood ending did lead to the end of Mariah May as we know it. Now Blake Monroe is living her dreams in stardom in NXT, and we'll see if her influence can be more fatal than Jessie Jane, who upset the world with the WTF, beating Steny Valkyrie for the NXT Women's Championship, of course, as Steny Valkyrie is now part of Monday Night Raw. And Julia's part of SmackDown, and we'll see if Jordan Grace joins the Blue brand based on what happens at Evolution 2, where she faces Jessie Jane for the NXT Women's Championship. But going back to AEW here for a little bit.
I gotta mention this. I forgot to mention this.
Go for it.
Swerve, if you're hearing this, and I'm not talking about the royalties I'm still owed, but I am going to just say this. Can you be in a Predator movie?
I'm not gonna lie, that Predator entrance was fucking sick. All right, that was
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Put it out there.
I even said this. On Blue Sky. I said this. Can they please cast you in a future Predator or AVP film or series as a champion warrior, and one of your dangerous moves is house call, but the foot has a hidden blade attached to it that comes out when in use?
Jesus, talk about slitting a carotid artery. Anyway, let's go ahead and talk more about AEW, celebrating the moments and, of course, the milestone, not only being the longest show than WCW's existence. They're celebrating episode 300 next week of Dynamite and 100 of Collision. Talk about major
I'm pretty sure
milestone.
Eric Bischoff is secretly crying in the corner.
Well, cry me a river.
They're probably still trying to sell more tickets of freestyle wrestling, which they've only sold 380 tickets to that show.
I was wondering what the heck would happen with that. That pretty much died for me.
They're going to be in Noah's neck of the woods in August in Cleveland, Ohio.
Noah, I am so sorry.
And they've already got 380 tickets sold. That's it.
I
mean, hey, more than zero. And again, as long as it means opportunity for some people, I mean, you know, it is what it is. But
you're
guys,
with Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff, I don't think that's worth it.
No, it's not.
Man, fair enough. But let's go ahead and talk about something that is worth something. Guys, we've lived and died by this company at moments of our mentality, and now it's reaching episode 300. Next week, we celebrate 300 episodes of Dynamite and 1 episode of Collision. So what does everyone think about that milestone?
We got it. We made it, man.
We made it. 300 of Dynamite and 100 Collision. I still remember the first time I watched Collision was that debut.
It's also convenient because think about it. When AEW hopefully reaches episode 1000, they'll be also teaming up with Collision 900.
Yep.
That is kind of ironic. But you were saying, King.
I still remember the time I remember watching Collision, the very first Collision. So many memories.
Yeah,
Especially the
so
Bang
many
Bang Gang
bitter
versus
memories.
FTR in 2 out of 3 falls match. Kenny Omega and MJF for the AEW World Championship. Tanahashi and Swerve. And then on Dynamite side, you had RVD. You had my timeless one making
Oh,
history.
Lord, here we go again.
We also had Big Business with Mercedes Moné being brought in. There's just so many memories we can just list from top to bottom that will be here all night.
Uh, and
And
sadly, Rampage wasn't here to see it.
no, Rampage had to
Well,
sacrifice.
it was a nice saga while it did last, and again, it's still giving me my favorite women's tag team match of all time. So I mean, again, you're never gonna top me on that.
I will say though, I have an update regarding Shockwave.
It's been a while since I heard an update on that one.
Well, things have been quiet on the network talk, but Billy Corgan sued them over the trademark.
Toss that to the side and move on and focus on the fact that you are on the Max app now and you're also on Amazon Prime.
Oh, speaking of the Max, speaking of being on HBO Max, yeah, they're renaming it for the 8th time.
Changing it back to HBO Max.
Because they have the biggest identity crisis in the world. First they're Max, then they're HBO Max, then they're HBO Max again, and then they're Max again. And then we gotta go ahead and have a debate whether or not they should expect brand recognition. But anyways, moving on from David Zaslav's identity crisis and continuously pissing everyone off. They are doing over 1 million views on both TV and streaming.
Good. That's what they need to do. They need that perception. They deserve that. I would argue that this is the best AEW has not necessarily looked, but felt since probably before pandemic.
I was just going to say 2021, but that's also a fair nod as well.
I think 2021 is still the first golden age, and I'm looking for the second one. What would you think is the second one?
If All In sticks the landing, in my personal opinion, I think it will be better than 21 if they stick the landing at All In.
Well, King, you're going to go all in, and we know also that we're going to include Supercard of Honor, and so far we got the men's casino gauntlet match. We know Mark Briscoe is the number 1 entrant. The women's casino gauntlet match where Kris Statlander is the number 1 entrant. We also potentially are going to get Swerve and Ospreay versus the Young Bucks, where if the Young Bucks lose, they're no longer EVPs for AEW. We also know, of course, our triple main event, you will see Timeless Tony Storm defend the AEW Women's Championship against the undefeated Mercedes Moné 6 belts after she beat Susis last week at Grand Slam, Mexico, of course, for the CMLL World Women's Championship. We'll talk more about that here in a little bit. We also, of course, have him and Adam Page taking on John Moxley once again, but this time for the AEW World Championship, where he promised, keyword promise, to bring that title back to light, while John Moxley looks to run Heyman out of this wrestling business for life. But more important than probably both of those combined in our fandom, King, you're seeing Okada and Omega winner takes all for the first of AEW Unified Championship.
The fact that I get to see that match on American soil and have been following this match since 2010's New Japan, it makes my wrestling heart so happy to see it live and in person. That's the match I'm going to lose my voice on. I'm just betting on that now.
That's probably fair. I can't believe I get to call that shit. Sometimes I love being part of YouTube community. Eric, what do you think about the All In card so far? What's your hype level?
It's looking pretty phenomenal for the most part. I'm excited for it. I'm surprised, and I'll commend AEW to this. They didn't go an easy route with this by going ahead and being like, hey, let's just insert Darby Allin into this, since there is a justification for it because he was thrown down the stairs last we saw him.
Well, I mean, there's that long-term storytelling where the nightmare began at Wrestle Dream, Darby Allin's home turf, where Wrestle Dream could be where the dream comes true for Darby Allin.
Really want to have Moxley hold the title for that long?
I'm just saying, if long-term storytelling, it feels like to me, Darby Allin has more of an integral connection to Jon Moxley and AEW, and where it would make sense. I mean, again, it was Jon Moxley that took Darby Allin's opportunity in the first place to beat Bryan Danielson last year at Wrestle Dream. Let's forget.
Yeah, I know. But I was going to just say this. Okada and Omega round 5.
Yes.
The AEW Unified Championship.
Yes.
Yes. What do
Yes.
you think of its design?
It's a pretty, of course, AEW belts always impress me, and this belt was right up there with them,
Yeah.
especially with the customizable side plates.
Yeah, but unlike WWE's where they have logos on it, they were like, let's do wrestling moves on it.
And it
Well,
has Okada's
like I
Rainmaker on the left side plate and Omega's One Ringed Angel on the right side plate.
Well, the
Yes.
thing about AEW championships, the more about the legacy of wrestling than brand shilling.
Yeah, actually, I looked it up. Apparently, New Japan. Apparently, they got the idea from New Japan Pro Wrestling's original IWGP Heavyweight Belt.
Yeah, I saw that too. God, version 4 needs to come back, please.
Yes, it do. Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
And then people were confused about why is it called the Unified Title? Why not just call it the Intercontinental Championship? And I was like, oh, I can look that up. And I looked it up, and I looked it up, and I was like,
I still can't believe that.
yeah, I looked it up, and
Go
I
ahead.
was like, legally, they can't.
Yep, the words Intercontinental title are owned.
By WWE, and they took it right after New Japan shut theirs down.
Yeah. I cannot believe you can actually own a word.
I can't believe it neither until I was told
we
that.
live in a world where the Fine Bros try to take the word react, and WWE tried to take this.
Oh yeah, then that's where they hit it with the cease and desist. Let's not forget.
Fair enough. So, what is everyone's expectations for this? Because you got to consider Kenny Omega or Okada is the first to hold this title, both legendary champions in their own wrestling careers. Does this devalue the AEW World Champion at all? Does it equal it? Where do you guys see this title standing in the AEW ecosystem?
If I was to think about it, I think it's basically their take on the well, we have the Legacy WWE Championship. We also have the secondary big gold belt.
But AEW, I guess Collision doesn't have necessarily its own belt. Do you think that the AEW Unified Championship would just be a focal point of Collision?
I wouldn't be surprised if they did that route. It'd be kind of interesting in some ways if they did it right, and I'm pretty sure they would. But like, if they did decide to have, because they reportedly do intend to have the Unified World Title, the Unified Title, be a big focal point in the AEW lore. And they're retiring 2 championships by extension and combining it into one.
Yes.
As such, we have decided to reveal that we have produced 2 women tag team titles for a year now.
Well, okay, but before we talk about that, I go ahead and give your thoughts towards this, King. Like, how do you see this, like, really separating the divisions between the World Championship and the Unified Championship? Because when you look at the roster, we talk about, again, how it's maybe a little over bloated and how Collision and Dynamite sometimes mesh together, with Dynamite being more maybe streamlined, but a little bit quicker, and why Collision's like a lot more of a last-minute exhibition type booking. Do you see this maybe giving more structure to the AEW ecosystem, where we might even get like a brand identity split?
I don't think we're going to get a brand identity split because for what I've been hearing, that the Unified Championship has been more of a second world championship, so to say. I wouldn't say it will like devalue the main AEW World Championship. It'll give more big names that are not competing for the AEW World Championship to go after the Unified Championship. Because remember, the Unified Championship is going to be held, the first ever held, either by Okada or Omega. So that within it alone,
start things off.
Exactly. It'll all start off the title lineage like off the right way, to where you have more big names that are not going for the AEW World Championship can go after for the Unified Championship.
I mean,
I don't think we're going to get identity. I really don't think we're going to get a brand split.
Yeah, I just feel like AEW just is not going to do that. But it does feel weird figuring you have 2 titles that almost feel like they're both world championships kind of together on the same show. I can't remember when WWE even had that one time. They just had like one title just unified into the WWE Undisputed Universal Championship for 5 years, but that's a whole different conversation. But still, this intrigues me very much. And yeah, the customized side plates based on wrestling legacy. That's a cool touch. But you look at the AEW landscape right now, the big match players, MJF, Bobby Lashley, Josh Alexander, Konosuke Takeshita. That's just naming a few off the top of my head. And some of those people are even Owen tournament competitors. Will Ospreay, for example, who has not even been the AEW champion, doesn't get a chance to. But we know Forbidden Door, the O2 Arena, is 30 minutes away from his house. So I wouldn't rule him out challenging for either this or the world title. Heyman or Moxley, be damned. So it's really a very unique what if. But I hope that it's treated in a way that makes sense, that doesn't cause the AEW world title to be devalued or overshadowed, because the AEW champion has been the cornerstone of this company. And somehow John Moxley has made this title still a focal point to think about, even in odd discussion, without even being seen on TV.
Yeah. But
going back to what you were telling, Eric, go ahead.
But here's the thing. Speaking of the O2 Forbidden Door event, there is only one match I want on that show.
And that would be?
Three-way Trinity match.
Hmm?
The Trinity of AEW, as they've been calling themselves. Ospreay, Swerve, Hangman, world title.
Oh, wow.
If Goto gets Ospreay, because I know Hiroki Goto said at Forbidden Door he either wants Shibata or Ospreay.
That's fair. Of course, Goto will be involved in the G1 Climax, and of course, he is still either Deep Roman champion after being in Shigeru Takagi. What a freaking match, by the way. So that jury's out there, and we also know Hiroshi Tanahashi will have his last match ever in the United Kingdom at the Forbidden Door. Lest we forget.
Yep.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised if they go ahead and have Hiroshi Tanahashi and Kenny Omega fight one more time.
No, I'll give you one better. I'll give you one better. Let's re-up it from Wrestle Dynasty, but actually, let's not go exhibition with it. Let's go full throttle with it. Tanahashi and Shibata one more time.
Beyond 5 minutes?
Beyond 5 minutes after what happened at Wrestle Dynasty.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, that 5 minutes was so fucking awesome. All right, fair enough.
But at the same time, that did cause issues between the two people.
What are you gonna do? Anyway, Shibata now freaking trios champion with the Yas. But speaking of multi-person champions, to your point, Eric, with Team Mega Bad, with Ty J, with Julia Hart and Sky Blue, with Thomas Tony Storm and Mina Shirakawa, with Thekla now involved in AEW. Leslie put that out there as well. It really feels like AEW has got more depth in this division. To your point, they could have an AEW women's tag team division on their hands. We saw a woman, of course, last week on Collision. We've seen these tag feuds with Team Mega Bad against the likes of Ty J, Harley Cameron, of course, get well soon, and Anna J. The Vendetta, of course, is another tag team that could come back into the AEW landscape. Of course, both Ty and Deanna will be part of the Ring of Honor Women's Pure Championship Tournament. Deanna for the win. But yeah, let's go ahead and put this aspect out there. Think about this. WWE once had a women's tag team division. They once had separate titles in both NXT and WWE. Now they have in WWE, and they have a team where one person's injured. And there's like 2 other teams across the entire landscape, if that. Then you had TNA. For the longest time, they had a defined tag team division. And they just broke up one of their last tag teams that they had to bring back the inspiration. That gives us 2 teams. But there is that other team that did sign in Myla Grace and the Harley Hudson. Good bout, but that's only 3 because the K don't even exist. And Tasha Steelz doesn't have that flavor anymore about Kiera Hogan. Ring of Honor, it is what it is. We're still figuring that out. Of course, you might see Supercard of Honor. But AEW women's divisions right now has quite a depth where they might have a tag team scene. So to your point, you're saying that they've been in development for a year. You're saying it's been a what if. Do you think it becomes a...
No, it's not what if. No, I'm saying like they've already created the tag team belts. They've had it for a year now. They're just waiting for the moment to start to pull the trigger.
Do you think they pull it after All In, if not this year? Do they make it a special, maybe towards the end of the year?
Look, that's what I'm just going to say.
What do you think happens?
You're forgetting the biggest important part of why AEW could have this division work.
Why is that?
Their partner was Stardom, remember?
Oh, that's right, guys. It's Stardom Tag Team Championships.
So I could honestly think they're probably going to introduce it heading into Forbidden Door. Stardom, AEW women, maybe Ring of Honor women, colliding in a tournament to determine who would win the tag titles.
Maybe Tokyo Joshi Pro or CMLL?
Yeah, actually, CMLL involved. We've seen Persephone and Thunder Rosa. There's another team. Of course, as well involved. We'll see that in Global Wars.
Heck, I'll go one step further. Imagine it. Athena and her precious minion
Billy Starks
Billy
or Red
Starks.
Velvet.
And we get CMLL's women, and we get Stardom women, and we get an AEW team women. Fatal 4-way to determine all four companies have their own tournament to determine who will represent each brand, and then we have all of them fight in a Fatal 4-way tag team match.
International Cup at Wrestle Dynasty, possibly. If they do that again, I think the jury's out whether or not that should be annual or should have been like a special thing. I mean, it was cool, but telling the kind of made Wrestle Kingdom almost feel like 2 nights, and it almost feel like, But anyway, the jury is out on that. But King, what do you think about the AEW Women's Tag Team landscape? Do you think it's sustained tag team championships? And if so, who's your first pick?
Then I feel like the tag team championships are going to come this year because the fact that we have been seeing more women's tag team matches of this year just alone, especially with Team Megabad, and then you got Ty J, and then you got Tony and Mina, and then you got, of course, Athena Red Velvet, Athena Billy, that combination. Yeah, I do see him introducing the AEW Women's Tag Team Championships this year, and I got Willow. If Willow and Kris can manage to get on the same page again, that should be they should be your inaugural women's tag team champions because they have been franchise.
I just remembered something big.
Go ahead.
What if they do this? Because they did tease it on Instagram. Maria Shafir and Shayna Baszler.
Oh my God!
They did tease coming back together after all this time.
The most lethal tag team ever in women's tag team wrestling. Legit. That would work on so many levels. And Shayna, again, right now, it's MIA, but we don't even know she'll be at the next Bloodsport show. And let's be honest, Shayna carried that.
And plus, her contract also has the 90-day extension thing.
Yep.
But she'll probably have time to come back in time for Forbidden Door to compete for the tag titles if they do.
It's been 90 days already since Shayna's been released.
Honestly, I've lost track of all the time in the world.
Same here.
I'm about to say, you're not wrong, though. There's too much time going on. But, yeah, and of course, like I said, Nick Hartwell, of course, part of the TNA. So I was thinking about that because why Kris and Shafir within AEW makes some unique sense, especially if Kris becomes a silent mercenary like Gabe Kidd. Except he's very outspoken. He's a mammoth, you know. Shayna and Shafir, though, legit 2 of the 4 horsemen of MMA, 2 of the most legit competitors to come out of the octagon. And for all the crap you want to give Shafir, you can't argue what Moxley says about her. She don't give a shit what anyone says, and she backs up.
And plus, she's improved dramatically since those days.
She absolutely has
improved.
Yeah, you can see it on Ring of Honor. Shoot, she put Lady Luck down with that beautiful judo toss transition to Mother's Milk. So, I mean, again, Shafir to me still is the most lethal Death Rider, by the way. And she doesn't say a damn fucking word. So, I mean, again, she had a snapdragon from Kenny Omega. But I'm really excited about this as an advocate for women's wrestling and the scope of this division with the additions of Thekla. Although I hope Jamie Hayter has a short-term injury. I want Thekla versus Jamie Hayter, damn it. I want to see who hits the other one harder because I bet that was the original plan. And again, with the AEW Women's World Championship up for debate, and Mina, yay, Mina, challenging for the TBS Championship next week on AEW Dynamite 300. There's a lot of moving parts.
Infinity Gauntlet Collector Monet.
And then Oliver Sonic Reigns got suplexed out for last week on Grand Slam Mexico by Tony San Diego. So, yeah. But let's go ahead and talk about that a little bit here. AEW Spectaculars. We've had 3 straight weeks of Spectaculars. 2 that were 4 hours long on Wednesday night, and the other one last week, 2.5 hours. What do you all think of them doing this almost seasonal, almost annually for the summer season in a way? Was it too much to handle back-to-back weeks? Did you like one show more than the other? What were your thoughts on these last 3 weeks? It was kind of ridiculous in my opinion.
Yeah, I understand that. And especially since, we all have our history with 3-hour Raws and SmackDowns.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially, I ain't going to lie, those both Summer Blockbuster and Fighter Fest, like that 4th hour block, I was starting to feel fatigue real quick, especially during the week because it's more like I'm so used to AEW pay-per-views on the weekends, like 4 hours or so. I'm not used to 4 hours on a freaking work weekday to where I'm just I
understand.
Oh,
the biggest thing, I think what makes AEW have some advantage is the fact that since they're on HBO Max and then you just have to wait a week or so for the director's cut, so to speak, as in you don't get the commercial one. I think that's been like the best benefit of it, because WWE still puts in the whole awkward transitional ad breaks, especially if you have the ad free premium plan. It's like, wouldn't it make more sense to give us the director's cut of the show where we just have the full show and no ads?
I think you're asking still too much there, but yeah,
But like
and
AEW
also
does it, and they even acknowledge, you're right, we should give you that. Make it free for them.
again, this is WWE versus AEW when it comes to business strategies. Just saying.
Oh, I know, but there's one business strategy I will forever universally hate from both companies.
What?
And that would be.
Hey, Kenny, Cody, Adam Cole, baby.
Oh, here we go. The injury stuff.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm still pissed about that, because guess what came out about that?
What?
Yes.
Basically, Damian Priest is working himself to a wreck.
Oh yeah, and he's earned the respect of the locker room because of it. That's right.
And the one thing when I heard that was like, earn the respect of the locker room. Okay, so you're enabling this stupid behavior. Like, look, I get what he wants to do. He wants to work SummerSlam because it's in his home field advantage, essentially. I think home game, as he calls it, due to being from New York City. Okay, I get that, but dude, that I hate that practice where you're thinking, and I hate that there are people thinking that this is respect, and I was like, no, it's being a complete fucking idiot, because you would be so crazed to go keep working when your body is breaking down to such an extent where they confirm you're injured, you're hurt, you're damaged, you need to stop, and you're like, no, I can keep going, I can keep going.
I mean, to be fair, Kenny Omega took a Tiger Driver 91, and it still didn't stop him from taking a hidden blade following that.
But he said he wasn't injured at that time. He didn't have diverticulitis. He was 100% healthy.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
But Kenny Omega made it popular when he was working as the world champion in multiple companies, where he was working death-defying stunt matches, like with Sami Callihan, and we all know how that worked out.
Yep,
I saw live. Yep.
Yes.
You lucky.
And the fact that he had a tilted hip, he had to take stem cells, he had to take a whole bunch of medications just to keep going. He was broken down, messed up, to the point that Tony Khan finally had to put his foot down. It's like, look, I know you want to put Valley Kingo over, but you can't do that. You have to go get surgery. And Kenny was thinking, because he's an insane asylum lunatic, thinking, I can be back by February, right? No.
Sometimes not even the referees is enough to stop a wrestler. Top tier authority needs to step in. So
and then Kenny Omega was like, okay, so I can't wrestle, right? Correct. Can I still come into work as an executive vice president? Oh, for fuck's sake.
That man lives.
Recovery, man.
That man lives, breathes, and is going to die of professional wrestling.
Will Ospreay almost did the same thing before he became a father with a family, while Kenny Omega just has a cat. I'm just saying. So
right.
But don't worry, he has his golden lover by his side.
Well, that's true. Then before we talk more about that, shout out, by the way,
let's not talk about Kota Ibushi and his state he was in a few years back.
Right, but again, shout out to Mrs. Bruh, by the way, Alex Windsor, who's now All Elite after losing the series for the IWGP Women's Championship at Pro Wrestling Eve. Looking forward to her competing more often now in All Elite Wrestling. And congrats to Siri, the Sun God, on winning that title. And also, with that being said, Kota Ibushi, he's back after, his ankle shattered underneath him after taking on Marufuji in the Arc. And I think he did a little bit of work at DDT Pro, got some visa work finally figured out, and now is literally finding about half of his fallen golden lover. To the point, we're running back a Wrestle Kingdom main event next week on Dynamite 300 against Rainmaker Kazuchika Okada, who's aligned himself with Don Callis.
Yes, he's abandoned the Elite.
I wouldn't say temporary.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
imagine this turns into an Elite versus Death Rider feud where they're like, no, Don Callis feud with, no, Okada's mine. No, Okada's
we
mine.
We did get a Konosuke and Okada tease.
Yeah.
And that one-on-one has never happened, by the way, might I add. Remember, the last time Konosuke faced Okada was Fatal 4-Way last year at All Out for the Continental Championship. And he wasn't involved in the decision.
Not a one-to-one fight.
No.
And if I recall correctly, we're still owed that tease of Don Callis wanting to take out Kota Ibushi through Konosuke.
Yep.
Yep.
And very well, you might get that next week in Ontario, California, when they run back that classic. And can Mina actually shock the world and become the TBS champion against the CEO? Can he give her the first loss before time is Tony Storm?
No.
Jury's out.
Yeah.
And we'll go to a draw before I think Mina's pinned, but even then, that's a stretch because, of course, those have 30-minute, or is it 20-minute? TV, 20-minute
20
time
minute.
limit. Yes, thank you, 20-minute. I had to figure out for a freaking moment. And speaking of women, Kris Statlander, of course, will be going to Pro Wrestling for the first time here very soon. But let's go ahead and talk a bit more about the Death Riders, shall we? Or the depth of the Death Riders. I know you're holding out for Kris Statlander and Willow Nightingale, but seriously, bruv, it looks like they might literally go the Stat and Shafir route here. And I know you got concerns, but it does feel like this Death Rider thing is not going to end at all in, at least not fully. What if John Moxley does lose the AEW World Championship, but Shafir still protects John Moxley's mission? Again, she's the possessor of the possession, the protector of the position. But what if she doesn't have to protect the position anymore? What does that mean for Marina Shafir as far as the Death Rider MO goes and her and Stat? So with Stat possibly being in the Death Rider's ear, and don't forget, Gabe Kidd works for John Moxley. I'm just going to put you on the spot because I don't know if we're going to go impromptu snippet thing before all in. We're going to try one with another. But do you guys right now truly believe him and Adam Page can fulfill the promise and bring the AEW Championship back home and is at the end of the Death Rider's MO?
Well, here's my take. Here's the thing. It's pretty much 50-50 for me at this point because you still have the lingering shadow of Darby Allin involved. That's like the biggest factor because remember, the whole vision was Darby Allin wins the title. And now with all these delays and I must climb Mount Everest and then hopefully go into space down the road because I'm insane.
Oh, Lord.
And I do my own stunts.
This is also accurate. Continue. But also, damn it.
I could honestly think I would not be surprised if they go ahead and have Moxley retain, though I will be disappointed because I feel like Hangman has had this Greek tragedy redemption arc going through him. And the fact that here's the thing about Hangman's and there's one thing I pointed out in my review about Hangman and Page's victory over Ospreay. Is specifically what happened after the match before Hangman shook hands with Ospreay. It's an inverted take on what happened with All Out between him and Swerve. Think about it. Hangman's up on the stage celebrating and whatnot, but whereas Hangman and Swerve happened, he was with this remorseful face, and then his humanity comes back, and one of the fans screams like, "No!" Like thinking he's going to inflict more damage.
Ospreay even said that a woman screamed bloody murder when you killed Swerve and you wanted to go back for more.
Yeah. And then Hangman stopped and realizing he's gone this dark path, and he's inflicted his pain on Christopher Daniels. And
redemption with self-resolution.
Yeah, and then you get this inverted version where Hangman goes down, and part of you thinks he's gonna do it again. He's gonna go down that dark path, only to realize he's rejecting that path again. But he still has that conflicting state of him, like, does he really deserve it? And here's the thing. If Hangman wins, it's not going to be what happened at Full Gear where he's hugging everyone around him. He's celebrating. He's probably going to win the title and look like I wouldn't be surprised. If he wins the title, he's probably going to have it and look around, but then realize he had to do this on his own this time. There's no Dark Order. There's no Ospreay. There's no Christopher Daniels. There's no one around him to help him. There's no one to be respecting him at this point because of all the damage he's inflicted on others for his rage. Sure, the ops are with him, but do they really like Hangman, or do they just feel like, we don't like you, but we hate him more?
Remember, Samoa Joe lost to John Moxley inside a steel cage at Beach Break thanks to Gabe Kidd and the Death Riders, and they beat the Death Riders for the Trios Championships. I think you answered your own question.
And then Pac got injured.
Exactly.
And my point about Pac, I gotta say this. Will we ever know why he was constantly shirtless?
No.
Well, I mean,
no, seriously, I am still trying to figure out why Pac especially around the time where you were doing this. It was freaking cold, man. I know adrenaline could probably be enough, but like you weren't wrestling a lot at that time.
Them Brits are built different.
And a
Or is
dirty
it
bastard.
the Boston energy keeping him alive, or sustaining his? Or maybe he's using all the Boston energy in the world to prolong his lifespan.
The Boston, all the Boston energy.
What?
Boston rushing a ruthless aggression. John Cena's final match. All right, King. Again, you got concerns regarding Kris Statlander and Shafir, but where do you stand with the rest of the Death Riders? Could you witness possibly the end of the Death Riders as you know it, especially if you got Swerve and Ospreay versus the Bucks potentially with the EVP powers on the line? Heyman's challenging John Moxley to the World Championship. The Women's Casino Gauntlet match could have Shafir and Willow influence involved, both in it as participants. We know Willow and Statlander are in it. We have no idea if Shafir is actually in it or will be there to help influence Statlander possibly winning it at the expense of Willow Nightingale. And then you have the odds where at this point, you almost wonder it's going to be Wheeler Yuta, Clara Casanova, and Gabe Kidd challenging them for the Trios Championships. What do you think?
I'm going to just go straight to Mox and Hangman because that's been the bigger story of the Death Riders, scenario. I feel like we're going to get a callback of Full Gear 2021. The reason why I say that because remember when Matt Jackson gave the nod to Hangman to hit the buckshot lariat on Kenny Omega to win the AEW World Championship?
Yes.
It's like the back of me is saying Swerve is going to do the same thing. Like, yeah, even Hangman has said that he don't want to patch things up with Swerve, and Swerve is, reciprocating the same energy back. But somewhere down that line, them two are going to, how should I say, ease things up a bit. But we're going to get that callback moment to where Swerve is going to give that nod to Hangman, just like Matt Jackson did at Full Gear, and hit the buckshot lariat, and then Hangman will get his redemption, and we're going to have a WrestleMania 20 moment. Because I remember you were saying there was nobody left to come out there to Hangman. He's like, I'm doing this all on my own. Did we forget one person?
Well, yeah, Kenny.
What if Kenny becomes the first unified champion and Hangman gets back the AEW World Championship? We'll have a WrestleMania 20 moment, but in All In at Globe Life Field with Kenny and Hangman standing side by side, respectively, winning their matches.
I can see that.
Yeah, I mean, again, former AEW tag team champions,
but
and
if
two
you
men
want
else
to add some more layers to this, let me add an extra layer to this. You have Ospreay and Swerve involved in this ending, but they're not out there to celebrate. They're instead out behind the scenes. They're like watching and being like if I can find the best scene from Captain America: Civil War, where Bucky and Sam Wilson are watching Captain America, and they're like, and whatnot.
Yeah, because we know they both still want to be the AEW World Champion at this point.
Yeah, they're like, good on Hangman. We got rid of Moxley. Now it's our turn.
And it's just a matter of who gets the first shot or her first crack. And again,
we could do that triple threat Trinity match.
This is one triple threat that actually would make sense in context, but I do get what you're saying. But let's think about this. We know we're going All In literally next month. Then we got the Forbidden Door. Then we got All Out. We have no idea what comes after that, though. Nothing's been made official.
Yeah, also, I wanted to mention this regarding Kris Statlander and this whole manipulation tactic that Moxley's doing.
Go for it.
Remember how you both mentioned the idea of Willow Nightingale and Kris Statlander being partners and winning the title again if they ever worked it out?
That's what he wants.
Yeah, and then I brought up Maria Shafir and Shayna Baszler.
Yes.
What if Moxley has a different plan in mind for Kris? Think about this. Just think about this. It's Moxley not trying to get Kris Statlander to be joining his side.
That's what I was thinking.
But he's owing Maria Shafir a favor. Like, I'll keep Willow Nightingale and Kris Statlander divided so you and Shayna can win the titles.
It just comes down to, again, what is John Moxley's MO? Destroy AEW as we know it.
Destroy
Rebuild
and
it.
set an evolutionary virus upon everything.
Forging combat. It's got to be cultivated. He's trying to create an army here. Again, Clio says we're not destroyers, we're fixers. We're builders.
But what if he's trying to do that with Kris Statlander? Like, make
Well,
her be more rogue.
I talked about it during our watch along. You remember what I said, King? Kris Statlander has been one of those I think has been trying to prove so much to everyone else and herself. I think the pressure is wearing on her to the point now she doesn't know what to think or feel. You look at Willow's year versus Statlander's year. Since Statlander lost not only to Mercedes Moné not once but twice last year and lost out on the Owen this year, she's had literally nothing. Her last TV match was on Collision against Will Nagle, which was trying to mend bridges. And yes, behind Statlander's back, we saw Shafir get involved. But of course, that was the MO against Willow. But since then, while she tried, to basically, say I had no idea about this, and Willow become paranoid and personally has sung nothing but red against both Kris Statlander and the Death Riders, it's made even more of a divide. But here's the thing I also want to think about. And here's a real turning point we haven't seen yet. Kris Statlander still has that friendship bracelet unbroken. And why she says for Willow right now, not going to think about her anymore, that's fine. I think it is unraveling inside Statlander to the point she doesn't know what to think. So Moxley's words saying, don't ever let anybody tell you who you are or what you're worth. That had to be a boost of self-confidence for Statlander or some manipulation for Statlander to stand truly on her own and for herself. And it paid dividends, even if it was on Shafir's MO, to your point. Statlander is the first woman in the Women's Casino Gauntlet.
Yes. Though, here's another thing. I could also think this. What if they're eventually going to build to a long-term storyline with Will and Nightingale, Kris Statlander, Maria Shafir, and Shayna Baszler for the AEW Women Tag Team titles in a tag team steel cage match?
It would be the first also. We haven't seen a women's steel cage match, I believe, since literally Thunder Rosa and Dunberger DMD. And jury's out whether Thunder Rosa challenges Athena for the Ring of Honor Women's World Championship. And based on the 4 women we saw tonight, I think Athena is very much going to be all in that Casino Gauntlet. It also is one of those things with the beauty of Casino Gauntlets. We don't know how deep they go, or who will show up, or who will debut. And considering some names we talked about that are no longer under the E, including not limited to Shotzi Blackheart, Priscilla Kelly, and Elena Black, there's no telling who else might show up across the entire wrestling landscape. CML, Stardom, or the independent scene too, especially in Texas. I said for Vixen, for example, or High End, and they recently faced her one-on-one at Rhodes Wrestling Association for the RWA Women's Championship. Great match, by the way.
I think you're forgetting the other part. Imagine if it's some of the women that Monet screwed over and took their titles from.
Oh, that would be interesting. I mean, let's see. Susan's just lost the CML Women's World Championship. She beat who for the Red Pro?
There was also that one in Austria.
Yeah, the Austria. That's right. I told James and Ash about that during our call last week. Go watch that in the archives. Well, again, she's 6 belts Monet. Although that suplex with the belts last week was one of the most ridiculous things ever. The titles, freaking hell. Carmen Sandiego, Tony Storm. Let the games begin. Game on. You saw what happened tonight, didn't you? Good grief. But yeah, it's really interesting to see what this Death Rider campaign leads to, more for the women for me than Jon Moxley. But again, whether or not we simply predict this show some way, July 9th, that's 2 weeks from the day, guys, the week that you will be going all in, by the way, remains to be seen. But right now, I do think that they are going to push this thing out because they're still doing more with this entire Death Riders narrative. I really think they're going to push this out further right now. So Dynamite 300 is going to really have to change my mindset. And I'm pretty sure, to your point, King, we're probably going to get more Casino Gauntlet matches regarding who's going to be maybe number 2 or whatever, because MJF said he's going to be in there because he wants his Triple B back.
Yes, he does, through the Hurt Syndicate. Well, via the help of the Hurt Syndicate.
They hurt people. We saw what happened with Jet Speed tonight. People like Billy and Kevin Nav, they can walk. I guess they get challenged for the titles
if they're up on their feet.
I'm still waiting for a future Blood and Guts match to have a 3-way match. Like War Games where they had 3 teams.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the old school WCW days, huh?
No. The WWE one where they had 3 teams: the Undisputed Era.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah,
And,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
the opposite pain. I remember that. But
Yeah,
here's the
because here's the thing. I've been saying this. Remember, I said I had this thesis video where I said it's the No Man's Land era. If I want to get that back on track, you gotta have eventually
Pop.
3 factions at war.
It's funny you mentioned that though, because again, to your point right now, we have not had a blood or guts match, not even announced as a special or anything like that. It almost makes me wonder, is that going to take place actually at a pay-per-view? Is that possibly going to be at All Out, which again, All Out was the most violent pay-per-view of the year. So I mean,
Yes.
and it was beautiful.
Oh, imagine if they do it for the ECW arena.
Oh my gosh. I guess yeah.
Now that I think about it, yeah, you could do that.
You really could, honestly. That'd be insane, though, to be fair. Then again, Capital Wrestling Center did as well in the Black Gold NXT, our NXT. So, I mean, you know. But, yeah, and also the women, what a masochist Sky Blue is. I love her for that. She wants to get violent. She wants to play with fire. She wants a women's blood and guts match.
Yes, she does. She's been advocating for that for months, for weeks.
She's great.
Right. You think?
No, I know, and I love it. I did Crazy Chicks, remember?
Oh yeah, you do. I forgot that you do.
Yes.
But yeah, back when I was talking about the AEW 2300 arena shows, I actually made a joke that Tony Khan probably was going to ask Warner Bros. This. Hey, I want to ask, no, we are not giving you the leeway to have all the AEW shows be All Out 24. And I also argue probably the only show that's going to have that is Ring of Honor Death by Dishonor.
Yeah, which
Death
of course will
before
be
Dishonor.
Yeah, would be of course the 2300 arena, and then of course we got Ring of Honor Supercar of Honor. Jury is out whether or not again the Bandito, the Ring of Honor World Champion, he will have a worthy challenger, and Will Athena as well. It is Ring of Honor still in a limbo that they don't know what to do with the titles, and the titles look like they're in a better light. And with this new Ring of Honor Women's Pure Championship coming into play, of course the tournament has not even started. We know our field of 6, including the Virtuosa, Deonna Purrazzo, who will be competing now on GCW against Lena Black. Ain't that some crazy shit? I really do wonder at this point with AEW getting things together. Like I said, All in Texas is a point of no return. It's do or die and keep going up from there. What's that?
They just announced this. I can't pronounce the lucha wrestler names, but it's going to be Brody King versus Rocky Romero with 2 lucha wrestlers.
Oh, Templario and Hechicero.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Tomorrow for Collision. And again, folks, special promo. Now, if you're watching this on Thursday night, June 26th, Collision starts 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We got a TNT Championship Challenge. Adam Cole defends against Josh Alexander. FTR calls out the Outrunners. Let's freaking go. We also, of course, have Queen Aminata versus Sky Blue, a match that both women are very familiar with each other. If you know them like I know them, folks, just saying. And I'm not just saying in the ring.
We
either,
also got Adam Cole Baby versus Josh Alexander.
Yep, and of course, next week right now we got 2 matches. TBS Champion on the line, Mercedes Moné versus Mina Shirakawa, and Kota Ibushi versus Kazuchika Okada. Oh my gosh. Or excuse me, Mercedes Moné versus Mina Shirakawa. No, I said that, Shikawa. Yeah, Shikawa, Okada, Kazuchika. They all just run together. But either way, there's a lot of stuff going on, all things wrestling. But right now, AEW, it definitely has my interest in King. You fucking suck that you're going to see this live. And somehow, some way, we will try and come out together and snip and dip this after Dynamite on July 9th before you pack up and head down to the Lone Star State. Safe travels,
I think King's
bro,
only
and stay
regret about
hydrated.
the show is that he's not doing the karaoke.
Yeah. That's my only regret, but I'll live with that regret.
You'll
No,
get it
you do
next
it all the
time.
time, so really you could have had a chance to laugh.
Nah, I can't get out. I wish I would have had that PTO, but of course with my work situation, not gonna happen, bro.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Again, priorities over passions. Again, a missed opportunity just means a bigger opportunity later. But as far as I'm concerned, you got the biggest opportunity of your young wrestling fandom to witness history. Enjoy yourself, bruv. And I look forward to doing an impromptu afterwards with you when you get your voice and your
There
sanity
is
back.
actually one regret King didn't even mention.
What?
Imagine if King got the tickets up front where you can get the chairs.
To bring the chair back home.
I'll be placing it right there, right next to my computer chair.
Yeah, about to say.
Like when I got to Full Gear and spent $700 for it.
You're crazy. But
You're
hey,
crazy for that one.
about to say, how many people are going to spend insert money here for the first ever 2-night
Hey, at least
SummerSlam?
hey, compared to where WWE's spending nowadays for tickets, I'm pretty certain Joe Hendry is
Yeah.
no biggie.
Actually,
WrestleMania in
hey,
Las Vegas, folks, once again.
okay, let's go ahead and close the book on this show with a simple closing remark. How you guys feel about going double or nothing in Las Vegas with WrestleMania?
Nah. Oh, actually, it's gonna be worse.
Eh.
You
What do you
see,
mean?
WWE has a nefarious scheme on their hands.
Do
Turn
tell.
Las Vegas
Okay,
into W City.
Noah, this might be the first time in a long time you might want to take off your glasses for this.
Oh.
I don't know about that. I'm in a good mood.
They're thinking of doing 2 WrestleManias a year soon.
What?
One in the United States, one in Blood Money Country.
Country.
When would you do the other WrestleMania?
If I have to guess, and this is just me speculating, I would not be surprised if they retired SummerSlam for it.
Oh no.
Look, they almost retired Survivor Series, remember, until fan backlash happened?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, what about Survivor Series, by the way, not even being called War Games this year? What the hell does that mean?
Yeah, they're probably
Yeah, I'm kind of caught off guard with that actually. Like it used to be a thing when Triple H brought it back for Survivor Series with War Games, and now it's not even announced. Period.
Yeah, I was annoyed. I was annoyed by that, but like, yeah, but like, this is what I heard. Now, this is from Dave Meltzer regarding the Saudi stuff, but like, yeah, yeah. So this is what was reported. The WWE's long-term deal with Saudi Arabia could include bringing one of the major events there as WrestleMania. It wouldn't replace the traditional U.S.-based one, but it could result in multiple shows carrying the WrestleMania name each year. Meltzer first hinted at the plan when discussing the scope on the partnership, saying they got the Royal Rumble for next year, which means I'm not going to watch. They got a quote WrestleMania coming. It may be. And Brian Alvarez immediately questioned the wording. Why did you put that in quotes? Meltzer clarified the situation, suggesting WWE may brand a Saudi event similar to the Greatest Royal Rumble, so they'll probably call it Super WrestleMania.
Oh,
Super
Lord have mercy.
WrestleMania.
Super WrestleMania.
And in fact, here's what the conversation continued. Because the WrestleMania may be the Greatest Royal Rumble WrestleMania thing, as opposed to the WrestleMania, but they will do a show called WrestleMania, whether that will be a year with 2 WrestleManias or, and then he pressed further, asking if that means there could be a Saudi WrestleMania and the usual US WrestleMania. There could be, okay, it's the decision they have to make. You know what I mean? It's like, if they do that, they could do 2 WrestleManias a year, 2 shows called WrestleMania in a year. Actually, be 3 because it's going to be 2 nights of WrestleMania, and then they could maybe do 2 nights in Saudi Arabia too. So basically 4 nights of WrestleMania. So be prepared for torture. Especially Noah. According to Meltzer, the motivation behind this move is simple. WWE could ease public backlash about the Saudi deal while raking in massive revenue by attaching WrestleMania to the show. And my response to that is bullshit. Can you just put it in the UK, goddammit, and stop exploiting the government's money when they're already having a financial crisis constantly? But that's a different matter. But if they do that, it eases the backlash against doing it, and they still can get the money to do WrestleMania in Saudi Arabia, or they may just do WrestleMania in Saudi Arabia. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure the reaction to the Royal Rumble will probably factor into all this. These are all the decisions they still have to be made. The driving force behind it is the obvious predictability of money.
Welcome to TKO's WWE, folks.
Well, might as well just rename WWE TKO at this point with all the branding, including
Actually,
the
there's
tables.
been a rumor that Vince McMahon is trying to buy it back with the Saudis' help.
Yeah, right. That'll be the day that guy ever.
Yeah, you want to know why I mean by that?
What?
Because TKO, after they have done all this vandalism and destruction, we're thinking, hey, do you want to unload WWE? Maybe.
Oh, I seen that article on Yahoo Finance.
Yeah.
Well, there goes the golden age. But that being said, before we close this thing out, does anyone have anything else to say regarding Seth Rollins, Money in the Bank, Queen or King of the Ring winners, or anything else for
speaking of Seth Rollins and Money in the Bank?
Yes.
I think I know where it's going. I've heard a rumor about this.
Go for it.
Goldberg is going to defeat the big bad U-boat commander name, and Seth Rollins is going to topple him. Thus, Walter should probably consider other opportunities elsewhere at this point.
Well,
if that happens at Saturday night's main event, I'm probably just going to you know what? I don't even know the words right now.
King. Think about this. You're going to be at All In.
Yes, I will.
You don't need to think about it. Relax. Just look back at women's wrestling. Evolution 2 will probably be a far better show.
Oh, by the way, speaking of that, Evolution is probably screwed.
Yeah, Evolution is screwed on that because of the fact that's the same night that Beyonce's performing in the same city.
Yeah.
Oh!
And Beyonce's concert is going to be down the road where Evolution is going to be at.
Oh, actually, it's worse. It's worse.
Worse?
Yeah, not only are they competing with Beyonce right next door, MLB's All-Star Show takes place on the same day.
Yeah. So, I forgot about that.
So basically, WWE, in their pursuit to hate AEW, may have just screwed Evolution 2 out of spite. So basically, they said, hey, we could destroy AEW's premier event by declaring war on everyone.
And you're setting the women up to fail.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, again, someone once said, equity doesn't mean equality. They're not the same words, and he's right, and that might be the definition.
But I know what's going to happen. WWE's probably going to point out saying this. Paul Roman, we can't. Evolution 2 is an all-women's show.
Right.
They have to figure out what to do with Roman for SummerSlam. And I think the jury is out. They're going to run back Roman Reigns for Seth freaking Rollins at this point, I think. Unless...
Actually, here's the thing. I'm still saying this. I think it's a part of Roman's nefarious plan to get Paul Heyman in Seth Rollins' graces and then backstab him at Bad Blood down the road if they do it again in a Hell in a Cell match.
The jury is out, but I could see him also just running back Roman Reigns versus John Cena at SummerSlam because let's not forget, John Cena faced Roman Reigns at SummerSlam when he was champion, beat him. John Cena, Roman Reigns, one last time. I think I just booked the SummerSlam.
Also, we gotta mention this. I'm surprised we didn't. I'm surprised we managed to get this far. Well, Punk, I sure hope you sold your morals out. The fact that John Cena even called him out on that, saying you change your values more just as much as I changed my T-shirt.
Damn. And you know, it is one of those things, but I will say this, that pipe bomb was the best heel work John Cena's done since turning heel. I will say that.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Rock. You didn't help at all.
Yeah, that was more of a code. When you think about it, it was more of a code because he couldn't actually say the real names that you wanted to say because what did he say? Claudio Castagnoli. That's supposed to be Colt Cabana. Nick Nemeth. That was supposed to be Nick Jackson. Mm-hmm. And he said Matt Cardona. That was supposed to be Matt Jackson.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they went that far, but they probably legally can't for various reasons.
Exactly.
But you want to know what I am surprised is? A surprise that he didn't go for, which he could have actually done legally.
What?
He could have went ahead and said this. Hey, Brian, how's the disciplinary committee leadership doing for you? Oh, that would have stuck a knife right there in the heart. Because Brian was the one that made the deciding vote to fire Punk.
Yep, and that's when Brian came up with that tweet saying that you don't gotta the best decision, the decisions don't gotta be the best ones. I remember that tweet.
Yeah, imagine if Cena went out and said, "Hey, Brian, how's the disciplinary committee going for you?"
Well, I mean, I kind of summed it up when I'm obviously predicting hypocrisy versus reverse psychology. CM Punk look in the mirror lately, but at the end of the day, whatever happens this weekend, let's just close things like this. Safety matters more than money. May everyone take care of themselves and come back here safely.
And hopefully Evolution 2 does not horribly destroy itself with Beyonce in the All-Star show.
Good luck to all the female talent in WWE, for that matter. Okay, well, that being said, guys,
Liv Morgan got injured.
Yes, I noticed that. I was supposed to be.
Guess what was reported?
What?
With Liv Morgan injured, WWE had to basically look at the script they had planned for Evolution 2 and be like,
Well, Triple H, I will say, follow
Because
back.
Liv Morgan and her partner were going to defend the titles against the Bella Twins, and that was going to be one of their main events, and now that's been thrown out the window.
Well, they got Asuka versus Io Shirai if they book that right, and Tiffany Stratton versus the winner of the Queen of the Ring, which sounds like it's going to be Jade Cargill. They get screwed by Naomi. So we'll see what happens. Again, Naomi's missed Money in the Bank, so maybe she'll cash it on Tiffany. We'll see. As long as they don't run the fridge back against Tiffany, I'm tired of seeing Nia Jax in the title picture. It's coming sickening.
Oh, yeah, Nia Jax. I didn't even mention this about what she said at the WWE Roast show. She said that Cody Rhodes and another were nepotism babies, and I was like, Nia, did you just forget who you're related to? Who one of your sister-in-laws are related to? And you're feuding with her now, so I'm pretty sure Roman and everyone else is looking at you and being like, dude, we're right here.
In other news,
Ramin.
Jacob Fatu for world champion. All right, let's go ahead and close this thing out. Great stuff, guys. Great impromptu conversation as always. Been far too long. Let's not take as long as before. Again, if we can, let's try and get back here 2 weeks before you go all in to sit and predict this show.
I probably won't be able to join you because my sister and my mom will be home.
All right. Well, hey, I'm sure we'll be impromptu very shortly afterwards, and I expect you to go into the Wrestleverse with this show quite heavily. So stay tuned, folks, for more on that here. Again, King, if I'm not covering Dynamite Collision with the Cinema Studios, you and I are covering Dynamite 300, bro.
Yes.
But with that being said, for now, Eric, go ahead and plug your stuff, where the people can find more of your takes, more of your chaos.
I haven't been doing that much YouTube upload content lately, and I had hoped to do it this week, but with all the weather and schedules and whatnot, I would not be surprised if I can't do it right now.
That's absolutely fair.
Because I even watched the Osprey Swerve match that happened on Dynamite last week, which was awesome.
Went to a draw.
Yeah. And I was planning to take a video about that, but then work life happened, and now it is set to. I'm expecting a storm to start tomorrow, and guess how long that storm is going to last, apparently?
How long?
A whole week.
Jesus.
Because we have been in the heat wave of the century, probably, with over 100 degrees for the last 5 days.
Give or take. You're not wrong, especially right here in the Midwest.
Oh, and I'm kind of surprised we did not talk about the fact that R-Truth got fired.
Well, Ron Killings is back, so that's what's up.
Yeah, and then WWE started claiming that, it was always the plan.
Well, whether or not WWE's
when his son called it out on IG and said, "Cap."
Yeah, even Kevin Nash came out and said this. No, it was definitely a plan the whole time. Why? Because Triple H told me.
That's my buddy.
He's lying to you. He wouldn't do that. He's my friend.
That's it. A good grace and a good face. All right. Well, Eric, regardless, beat the heat. See you again soon. King, again, whether it's next week or the following week, we're going to have something to predict before you go all in. It's always a pleasure to cover stuff with you and go impromptu. Have an honorable day tomorrow because we got Global Wars and Collision. Keep that in mind. Go ahead and tell the people can find you. Now let's go ahead and get the hell out of here.
Right. Follow me on Blue Sky. Follow me on Twitter, the same, and Instagram, AMT, Roman numeral 23. I know the drill.
Yeah, and you all know the drill when it comes to me. I don't matter, but what does matter, my friends, my family, and professional wrestling, damn it. Don't be a dickhead. Subscribe today to my Canadian friend, Ash. Baddie for Wrestling. She's a huge NW fan. She's a young punk at heart, and she's just a good, wholesome-hearted Canadian wrestling fan. So follow her today if you can. Subscribe. Subscribe to Walter Cruz. He and I cover a lot of the wrestling that you see here on this channel in collaboration with AEW Studios. And shout out to La Princesa Tina. So subscribe. And again, as I always say, there are no winners, there are no losers, there are no betters. Just fans of opinions of this passion we all share. So at the end of the day, folks, support one another, respect each other, protect your mentality too. God bless all you crazy people that follow so much of the damn internet in the world. Protect your mentalities. And treasure your families. Just your life to professional wrestling. It's truly as simple as that. That being said, thank you so much for tuning in to another impromptu conversation here with ATW. Please like, subscribe, comment, tell a friend. The bell, those beer goes live on demand on this channel or any of the simple YouTube channels here on Samoa Studios or Eric's channel. Hit the subscribe button if you wish. But again, subscribe especially to here. Subscribe to Eric's channel. help grow the YouTube community, guys. Show you our YouTube creativity, positivity, outlooks, critical takes, salt included, and overall passion for this business is not anytime soon. Sometimes we take a reprieve. Sometimes we go impromptu. You never know. Again, shout out to the AEW fam. Follow Mary Jade, Spinebuster TV, Hustle Wrestling. Follow her on the social medias. Shout out, pal. Cheers to you. Definitely got to chub you once again. Follow our residential enforcer, our gaming expert and collaborator and creator and fighting expo participant, Lex. Follow Preacher Man Casey Flynn, who always be a fan of Dakota Kai, even though that's not her name on the independent side, which comes back to the ring. Follow everybody, of course, in the family. Follow these two. And again, we'll see you next time. So until next time, I'm going to bid you all now, as the heat is still on here, not just in wrestling, but in life, a fine adieu. So until the next time, King, Eric, everybody in and out of ATW, make a positive impact in life. Have a good night. We are ATW. We love all things wrestling. We also enjoy sleep too. Have a good night, folks, and thank you for tuning in to another AEW View Impromptu. Have a good night, folks. God, it's hot, and this wrestling business is hot. I still can't believe this is happening. You fucker! You get to see this live.
I'm
History
still waiting
on
for
American
Madison Square
soil.
Garden show.
God bless it. I never get the chance. Never. That's all right. I'm happy for my friends. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Bye-bye. Gosh. At least I no longer have to worry about the trope you all always do, because, again, she doesn't wrestle. Ha 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 ha. But all the best to the bunny. Go ahead. Follow her on the social medias, too. She recently went to Toy Heil. She has a podcast now. Happy anniversary to Chainsaw Girls. Her and Allison K. All right, guys. Good job. I'll see you all next time. See you next time, folks. I'm sure I'll be calling some yahoos on the internet here pretty soon this weekend. Not these two gentlemen. It'll be some other yahoos, including probably Ash. But Ash is all right. God.